Well, hello, my name is Richard Scuderi. Welcome to our premiere episode of Design for the Times. I've been a home stager, an interior designer, and a contractor for the last 20 years working in the tri-state area. Our show is going to be all about style. We're going to tell you for 2017 and now 2018, all the things you do to make your home sparkle. I've traveled throughout New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and the surrounding towns in this area and have experienced wonderful things over the past 20 years. I'm going to bring a lot of resources to you, a lot of design ideas to you. We're going to have all different sorts of people from all different sorts of walks of life and teach you how to do what I do every day. I'm very fortunate today to have somebody who I really enjoy connecting with, and her name is Kendall Alio, and Kendall Alio is with the Sherwin-Williams Company. She is very dynamic, and she has a lot to talk to us about today, because I say to people, if you don't have a lot of money, one of the best things you can do to make a space transformative is paint. Paint is actually magic. Well, hello.
Hello, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I want to start by talking about your connection with the Sherwin-Williams Company. How did that come about?
Absolutely. So like most, I started in the stores. I worked my way through assistant manager, store manager, and then I've branched out. Now I'm designer account executive, which is part of our marketing team, and I handle residential architects and designers for New Jersey.
Sure. You know, one of the things in my business that I've noticed is that design has changed a lot. I think when I started 20 years ago, back then we were very much traditional. We were very much into the jewel tones. We were very much into very rich saturated colors, burgundies, golds, lots of yellow colors. Trims were creams, they weren't pure whites. They were very different, lots of olives and sage greens and so on. And I would say there's been a complete polar opposite, a shift, if you will, to a much more urban, a much more clean lines, a much more definitive style, which is more industrial. And I think that follows suits with color as well, don't you?
Yes, color has moved from where it once was in a very traditional sense to a very electric and unique style.
Exactly. So the first change I saw was the graying, I call it, of America, where there was this new development where everything that was a neutral tan became a neutral gray. When would you say that we started to see that switch where it went from sort of neutral tans to neutral gray?
I would say the switch happened around 5 years ago. Within the last 5 years. We've moved from the beige family, like you said, the tans, to the grays, which just means a gray beige. And that's the direction we've gone in, and now everybody wants their whole home even gray.
You know, about 5 years ago, I was working on a new construction home in Hillsborough, New Jersey, and the woman said to me, I want every room in my big house gray. And I thought, what a crazy idea to make every room in your house gray. And then I said, all right, well, how about we make some of the room different shades of gray, and then we'll bring in complementary colors. No, she wanted every room in her house gray. There's a danger in that, I think, because if you're going to make your palette completely neutral, you have to add pops. And the pops don't necessarily have to be with paint color, they could be with decorating. But you can make something too neutral, I think.
Yes. If you don't have it stand out with different sheens and finishes, or possibly mixed metals within the actual furniture choices, then it falls flat.
It definitely
but you can make all gray look so cool with the right touches, or you can make it look very drab.
Exactly, exactly. The other thing that you keep in mind with gray is the single hardest color, I think, to actually get right, to differentiate between, because it is just that. It is white and black together. So it picks up other tones all the time. And the biggest thing that people tell me often is that when they're painting a space, they get a paint chip and they think they have the gray they want, and then it came out lavender or blue or a little bit green. Why is gray such a difficult color to navigate in general?
So this is going to sound crazy, but gray is actually the process, like you said, of white and black. And the problem it gets distort is a phenomenon called metamerism.
Wow.
So yes, I know, I was going to get crazy.
Folks, metamerism.
Metamerism.
Okay.
So pretty much it's the way that light affects color. And because gray is such a chameleon, metamerism in your light sources will affect this. So grays can look green, they can look teal, they can look pink, they can look blue. And it all depends on the furniture in the area, the natural light, the light bulbs. What is the light bulb? LED? Is it not? Yeah. How far away from the light is it? And because it is not a super dark or super light white, the metamerism will mess with the gray and make it many different colors.
Yeah, I think it's the toughest thing with the grays because it picks up other colors.
Everything.
And most people, I've gotten more work on doing color consultations, which I do at my locations of Maven Hill Design, doing color consultations because people can't navigate through the grays.
There's just too many.
Right.
There's too many colors, and then in the colors, there's too many whites, and there's too many grays, and that's why people need a professional like you to be able to bring you on in for an hour or 2 hours and let you show them what they think they want and then bring it to life.
It's very much true because one of the things that I also own Maven Hill Painting, and I see the colors painted out every day.
Yep.
So when someone is looking at a small paint chip, they're not getting the true color and what it does to a space. When you take a white wall and you put a chip of gray or any color, it looks like you put black on the wall because it's such a commitment. But when something happens, and I think you know this already, something happens often when you're working with color, when the color surrounds a room, it sort of softens, doesn't it?
Yes.
It becomes something else.
Yes, from when it's a small, harsh little chip to when it's in a full space.
Right.
Yes, you're correct.
It's sort of soft. Now, case in point, I'm painting a house today. My crew is painting a house today in Flemington, New Jersey, new construction. And the woman picked a yellow. Now, yellows haven't been as popular the past couple of years.
Yes.
I'm seeing yellow as a pop color when I do a gray room, but not on the walls.
Yes.
So the woman picked a gray color, which she thought would be nice for her children because it was cheery. I looked at this yellow color, and it was green. It was like this like mellow yellow, Mountain Dew green yellow. And I had to say, no, let's come back. And I got up early this morning, and I went before my crew started, and I picked a yellow that had a little bit more brown in the base because we were grounded by hardwood floors that were a dark brown. And that made all the difference in the world. It had to be agreeable. So most people, I think, need to know is that you have to do what you said, Kendall, and that is look at your surroundings, look at the absorption of light, look to see if you're southern exposure, northern exposure, how high your ceilings are, and other influences, and that influences your paint.
Yes, it absolutely does.
So I want to start very simply, and I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible for our viewers, and that is first talking about trim.
Okay.
And I think what I've seen happen over the past 5 to 10 years is trim used to be very creamy. It was not necessarily white. And what has happened as we've gone to the grays and then the grays, which we'll talk about later, is that trim has become very white.
Yes.
Even myself, I always preferred white trim, but I've gone the extra step to go to a more super white or the whitest white I can have. Not like white out or not like neon, but a pure white. And one of the reasons that I've opted to do that is the colors we're using more now are much more subtle than they used to be. We're not doing a dark burgundy. We're not doing some of these saturated golds and these colors. So you need a differentiation, a clear differentiation between what is trim and then what is actual paint on the color. Are you seeing that across the board?
Yes. So we are moving more from the traditional antique whites and Navajo whites, which are cream based.
Right.
And we're moving more into a bright white color.
Right.
So what that would be, as you see in here, you'll see bright whites that are going to be paired with super vibrant colors, which is great. But bright whites also pair off light grays.
Yeah.
If you have a creamy white with a light gray,
then
it almost dirties it.
Yeah,
it's not
but
crisp. It doesn't look crisp and fresh and together.
Exactly.
So when you're able to bring it together, a bright white will set off the gray really well, even if it's the lightest possible gray.
Right.
You'll still see the color difference.
Differentiation. So let's start with trim. We're going to do trim, we're going to do ceilings, and then we're going to do walls, because I think people are very confused.
Okay.
The first thing, let's talk about trim itself. Trim is not just the baseboard molding and the crown molding, it's also doors.
Yes,
it's also surrounds of windows. So typically we like to do that finish in a semi-gloss. I mean, I have made some exceptions, but we want our trim to have some gloss to it.
Yes.
Would you say there's a practical reason for having your trim be gloss?
There is a practical reason. So not only does it look lighter and fresher and stand out and make more of a statement, but it's also more durable and more washable. And when you think about trim in the sense of doors, think about how much doors in your home take a beating.
Touch, yeah.
Just if you don't have children or pets, they still take a beating. If you have children and pets, those poor doors.
I know.
Think about how often you have to wipe them, or they get nicked, or here and there. That's why you would like something. And the reason doors and trim are the same is because you wouldn't have a different sheen on your door and then have your trim around your door be a different shine.
Exactly.
So because of the traditional semi-gloss on the trim, you would carry that over to the door, and then you're able to have it just be more durable and washable.
Now, for your trim color, so we're going to go with semi-gloss for almost all situations.
Yes.
We're going to use a white. For Sherwin-Williams, everybody has their own terminology of their colors.
Yes.
What are the most popular whites that we have?
So we have our brightest white is our high reflective white.
High reflective white,
Yep.
okay.
We have extra white, also very white in the title.
Right.
We have pure white,
Okay.
very white, and snowbound.
Okay.
So think snow, fresh, white. Those are our most popular, very bright whites that match tons of colors from white all the way to dark navy and black.
A couple of years ago, I started to also see the trend, besides the graying, that people were picking really almost all off-white shades as wall colors.
Yes.
I've kind of seen that go away. Tell me what you think about that.
So
or maybe it
we see
hasn't.
We see it every now and then.
Okay.
Where people want everything white.
Right.
And they'll make their touches in the sheens. They'll make flat white on the walls, and the trim will be white semi-gloss.
Right.
And you are seeing it, but it is subsiding for more of a colorful, fun aesthetic.
I'm not, and I will say this, I am not a big fan of white walls. And I'm also not even a big fan of white exterior colors. I like the different levels of sheen and the dimension of something, and I think color only adds to that.
I totally agree.
So when people were coming to me and saying they wanted to paint their walls a tinge of off-white and then white trim, I didn't feel that there was any depth there. Even though the sheens would be different, I don't think there was depth there. So even if, for example, I took a house in Mendham that was white with black shutters, it had white trim, white garage door. So when you drove up to the garage first, all you saw was this sea of white. God forbid they had a white cat or dog.
Oh my God, you wouldn't see it.
Exactly. So I took that white house and I made the body a soft light gray.
Okay.
I made the trim white, and then we popped the shutters in a black. And the difference in that was transformative because then there was depth.
Yes.
I think that's why it's important to have some level of color and then to have a true white.
I completely agree. White on the trim for exterior is the perfect place to put it.
Exactly.
It only complements.
And the big mistake I see people make is often most window trim is white. You don't want to have white window trim and then cream wood trim around the window. A big mistake. You want it to be cohesive.
Yes, you want it to be the same.
Right.
So it all looks nice and uniform and bright, and it pops, looks very clean and fresh.
Exactly, exactly. So let's talk, we talked a little bit about trim. Let's talk about ceiling paint, because I think of all the areas of painting, people are the most confused about ceiling paint, and I don't know why. First question I get from clients is, why do I have to use ceiling paint? Why can't I just use white paint?
So we'd like you, we can't make you do anything, but we'd like you to use ceiling paint.
Right.
It is formulated for one wall of the house, what we call the fifth wall, which is up.
Sure.
So it is formulated to be on the ceiling. It is formulated for stains that are on the ceiling, and it is formulated to be put on a ceiling.
Right.
Other paint, while it can go on a ceiling, is fine. Traditionally, even a builder's grade flat is more expensive than the actual ceiling paint.
Yeah.
So why not get something that is designed specifically for the fifth wall?
Exactly. And one of the things is that, unfortunately, it's not a perfect world. And when we build a house, often if you're going to see rippling and imperfections, you're going to see them in the ceiling. So ceiling paint hides shadows. So that's why we want to do a ceiling formulated paint.
Yes.
And the second thing is the sheen of the ceiling. And I say this to all the time to people. In a perfect world, if you're painting your house, the whole house, you want your walls to be matte, which is closer to flat but washable. You want your trim to be semi-gloss so you can clean it and there's a differentiation. and you want your ceiling to be a dead flat.
Yes. Yep.
And consistent with that, right?
Yes. We always prefer a dead flat on any ceiling because it will hide the most imperfections.
Sure.
So on a new residential property, there's not many imperfections. But imagine a home that was built in the 1800s.
Sure.
There's probably some imperfections
there, right.
And if you put a matte or a satin or a semi-gloss or even a gloss because you're going for a certain look,
right,
you're going to take those imperfections and magnify them.
Exactly.
So that all people will notice is that nail pop you have over there in the ceiling.
No, it's true, and it's going to happen. I also think with paint, and this does happen, is that there's moisture in paint. So if you're painting an older house and you're painting a ceiling, sometimes inevitably from the moisture in the paint, imperfections can show themselves, don't you think?
Yes.
So the best way to prevent that is to do something that's very, very matte so you're not going to see it.
Yes, you always want to err on the side of caution, if you will, as far as putting up what you can to still hide as many imperfections as possible.
Right, right. See, I say to people, paint is sort of the great amalgamator. It's sort of like brings everything together. So if there are imperfections or maybe there's different textures, paint sort of brings that all together and gives you like a nice tidy package at the end.
Yeah, paint is the bridge.
Yeah.
And it's also the cheapest thing to fix.
And transformative like nothing else.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it's like, you're right. It brings it all full circle and gives you a full package.
Exactly. So we've talked about the trim paint. We've talked about the ceiling paint. Let's talk about the finishes for wall paint. Now, I say for the most part, I like to use matte products.
Yep.
Let's talk about the different levels that Sherwin-Williams offers, the different lusters.
Okay.
Why don't we start with the most base for walls? What would you say would be the most base?
So depending on the amount of traffic. So traffic will depend on what you can start at.
Okay.
If you have a very low traffic room, for example, a guest room.
Right.
Doesn't get a lot of traction in there, not a lot of people, cleaned every now and then, a flat is perfectly fine.
Right.
As you step up into medium traffic rooms, all the way through high traffic rooms. That's where you'd like to start traditionally a matte, right? So that, and then from there you can go up. If you are a client that really likes shine, there's no reason you cannot step from a matte to a satin.
Right.
And then from a satin to a semi-gloss.
My question to you is, what's the difference between eggshell and satin, or is that an interchangeable term?
Okay, so they are actually interchangeable.
Okay.
So traditionally you will find a paint line or a line within a brand, and they will have either an eggshell or a satin.
Okay.
Eggshell and satin are so very close together that if I painted the wall behind you in eggshell and the wall on this side is satin and had you find the difference and tell me which one, you couldn't.
So a couple things with that I want to talk about sheen, because I find sheen very important, is that I don't like inconsistencies from room to room. So I'd like all the rooms to be matte just so there's a continuity from room to room, especially if you're painting the same color.
Yes.
So that's very important to me. But there is a misnomer, or I feel it's a misnomer, that people say, okay, you can do matte in all my rooms except my bathrooms and kitchens. And my bathrooms and kitchens, I want to do eggshell, I don't want to do matte. I'm curious of your opinion on that, and then I'll tell you what I do.
Okay, so then it all depends on what grade of paint you're working with.
Okay.
If you are working with an entry level to middle of the road style paint, you do want to bump it up to an eggshell or a satin so you have more washability, more durability.
Right.
Now, if you're using a premium grade product, that washability and durability factor doesn't matter the sheen.
Exactly.
You could go if you're using emerald, for example, you can go all the way down to a dead flat, and it is still just as washable as an eggshell or a satin.
Exactly.
So it all depends on how much money is left over in the budget for what line of paint you're going with. If you're premium, you can go matte in every room in the house, kitchens and bathrooms included, tons of hot steam, a lot to wipe up, a lot of grease. You're fine.
And you're in good shape.
Yes, with a premium grade product. If you are more price conscious and you're more entry level to middle of the road, depending on the job, then you would have to step up your sheen to have it last longer.
Exactly.
So that's the difference.
So I consistently talk people into matte throughout the house, the consistency, the difference between the trim and the wall and the ceiling.
Yeah.
And I tell you, the matte paints that you have are wonderful. They're washable. They're easy to take care of. And then you have the consistency from room to room.
Yes.
Even if the color's different, there's that continuity, which I think looks nice.
Yes.
So we talked a little bit about sheens. Let's talk about the exciting changes in color.
Okay.
Kendall, I'm starting to see color come back a little bit again, don't you think?
Color is back, and it's here to stay.
So I want to reveal on our premiere show the 2018 Sherwin-Williams Color of the Year.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the color of the year is Oceanside.
Wow.
It's a beautiful, deep blue with a teal undertone.
Exactly.
We're seeing blue
everywhere. Yes.
Everywhere you could imagine is blue.
Yeah. And you've been a guest on my radio show, Modern Design, on WHCR in Flemington. We dedicated one whole show to blue because I've never seen, as much as I've seen graying of America, this blue thing is hotter than ever.
I know. Blue is in everything. And some people may see this and say, while I love it, I can't imagine painting my whole home this.
Right, because that's a very big commitment to color, right?
And that is fine.
Right.
We would love the background of a bookshelf.
Yes.
Or a light fixture.
Right.
A door. You know, or maybe you bring this color in a piece of furniture.
Sure.
In a nice white or light room. It doesn't have to be that you have to paint an entire room in your home this color, but we're just seeing pops of blue in everything that we do.
Sure, and you know what? So I'm finding, I don't know if you're finding this also in terms of your sales, I'm finding it's all shades of blue.
All shades.
I do a blog called The Color Guru at blogspot.com. And we noticed with blues, it didn't matter whether it was navy for like a dining room, or a mid-tone blue in a bathroom, or a very pale blue for a ceiling in a patio area. It was blues across the board.
Yes.
And I think that blues are very much paired with gray. I'm not saying that gray is going to go away because gray is a neutral. The blues often are accent colors. You wouldn't do a whole house in blue. It wouldn't look good. So in continuing with the gray trend, which I don't think is going away, but I want to talk about gray after that, is that gray in blue is a very big trend. If you want to be current, that's what to do.
Yes.
I just did a townhouse over in West Orange that was built in the 80s, and it was all beige based. It had linen as the trim color, and every room was sort of shades of yellows and creams and so on. We did a very clean, one of your extra white, clean trims in semi-gloss. Most of the walls were painted light shades of gray, and then our pop color is the teal, the blue-green color, and it looks wonderful on film. It's beautiful and very fresh looking and very much transitional. You could make it very traditional. You could make it very contemporary. It works with everything. And I think blue does a good job with that, don't you think?
Blue does a fantastic job with that, which is so nice, which is why gray is popular, like you said. So because gray is so popular, people were looking for ways to pair other colors with their gray, their love of gray. And the perfect medley of that is blue.
Blue.
Like you said, all shades. So it looks fresh, whether it's in an accessory or an accent wall or a dining room above a chair rail. You can go super light blue to very deep navy and get a beautiful, fresh, modern take. But it could also be rustic. It could be country. It could be nautical. You can go so many different ways with just a hint of blue.
No, it's very true. And you know what I say to people is often home fashions follow fashion in general. Now think about who could wear blue. Because I often say that people often pick their paint colors based upon their own physical appearance. If you're a blonde, what's your best color? Blue.
Blue, navy.
Okay? If you have white hair, if you have silver hair, what's the best color? Blue.
Blue.
If you're a redhead, what's a wonderful color? Blue. Blue. So there's nobody that doesn't look good in blue. It's sort of universally beautiful and attractive. Our set here, we have blue light because it's attractive.
Yes.
So that's why I think blue works so well, and I think it's going to be with us for a while. Yes. And as you say, you could have a very traditional cherry dining room set, and you could switch above the chair rail and do a dark navy, and you're going to show some navies, although I don't know if our camera will be able to pick up the color per se. And you could do a dark navy, and then you could do maybe a geometric fabric on your chairs, and now you're transitional.
Exactly.
And blue's very good at doing that. In the Color Guru on my blog, we dedicated one of the blog postings to navy dining rooms.
I love that.
And I will tell you that I've done a lot of navy dining rooms. I just think it's a great color. I don't think I would have thought about it myself 5 years ago because it's not necessarily a food color, but it's such an attractive backdrop. And when I say to people, when we went to grammar school, they would put a blue backdrop behind us when they took your picture because it's attractive. If you're sitting with your guests in your dining room at night, don't you want a beautiful backdrop? That's why I think blue works as a dining color.
It's very popular in dining rooms because for everything you just said, and it just pops. Think about even just your place settings.
Right.
Most of those, whether they're wild and crazy or traditionally white, they're going to pop off that navy background.
Exactly. So the grays, I think, are the hottest still, but grays are changing a lot. Now, when I first started to see gray appear, people were asking me for blue grays.
Yes.
But the problem with blue grays, they're too much of a commitment to color. And people were like, I don't know if I like this anymore, and they would get used to it. Then a lot of neutral grays, light grays, neutral grays. So if you're painting hallways or big transitional spaces, it was good. But then you used a buzzword, and the buzzword is grayish. Then the grays sort of transitioned, and now we have a lot of brown grays.
Yes.
Do you think it's going to stay brown gray, or do you think it's going to go back towards the middle a little bit?
I think it's going to stay. And the reason I think that it's going to stay, and while it's been honed in on this, is because it's matching so many things.
Right.
So that grayish, that brown, tan, gray, beige is matching your warms and your cools. So you're able to use a brown couch, a gray couch, a blue couch, a black couch, and it's matching. You're able to bring in mixed metals, different pillows, pops of color, whether that be white or pink or red or gold, and it's matching. So because those grays have the brown and gray and beige undertone, they're bringing out different tones and everything, and they're very easy to go from one aesthetic to the other.
They're cohesive. They bring the whole look together. No, I agree that. But I also think one of the reasons that people were going grayish is there is this huge trend toward wood. And weathered wood. And we're seeing wood reappear everywhere, almost like the 1970s.
Wood is everywhere.
Wood is everywhere I go, every restaurant I go into. So wood is what color? It's browns. It's shades of tans and browns. So you don't want to pair it with a blue gray. You want to pair it with a brown gray so you pick up the undertones of the wood. And I think that's a big part of the trends and so on.
That's a huge part,
What else do you see trending? Because as I am in houses every day and commercial spaces, you have so many different environments. You do forecasting, you do seminars. What else do you see people doing with paint?
So a lot that we see is we're seeing pops of color. So we have our 2018 color forecast. This is a very high-end, high-trend style forecast. So our team travels the world, and they collect these colors and these color stories from different cultures, different phenomenons, different things that are popular. Now, this is not your everyday cup of tea. This is not...
This is a little eccentric. This is a little extra on the neutrals.
However, everyone can use these from the neutrals. You can use these pops of color together in with pillows and furniture. You do not have to paint your room fuchsia.
Right. Kendall, I hate to stop there, but we're out of time. I thank you for being my guest on my premiere episode. I wouldn't have anybody else.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, and look forward to seeing you again. Have a good day.